welcome to Gefet in the Daf. I'm Yael Shimoni, bringing to you together with Hadran in Yeshivat Drisha, learning a bit of Yun in your Kiyut of Daf Yomi. And today we're in Kitin Daf Yudaled Amud Bet, and on this daf there is a very famous word, Shuda, which holds a very big machloket between Rashi and Tosfot about how to understand what is Shuda and how it works. So today we're going to really do a short iyun, but this iyun is relevant not only for Gittin, but actually for Baba Metzia and Baba Basra, and also things that we saw in Ketubot. And this sugya is a raya for the Tosfot against Rashi in different understandings of Shuda. So let's begin. We'll read the Gemara and see how this Gemara is a raya for Tosfot. How is Rashi defending himself if he can, and what are the svarot on the two sides of the machloket. So the Gemara in Daf Yudaled talks about a question whether holech is zachi or lo zachi. Let's see. הולך מנה לפלוני, והלך ביקשו ולא מצאו. תנא חדה יחזרו למשלח, ותנא אידך ליורשי מי שנשתלחו לו. What is the situation discussed? Let's say somebody, called a shaliach and said, here, I'm giving you money to give someone else, to give a certain person on the other side of the ocean, further away, and the shaliach goes and tries to give the money, and he can't find him. Why can't he find him? It sounds that this person has died, which means he cannot be found. And there, in this situation, you have two different mishnayot, two different braitot that gives different solutions. According to Ran Braita, Tana Chada, I gave money. The person who I wanted to give money to died. This money has to return to me, so the shaliach has to bring back the money to me. Tanya Idach says, no. Fine, so the person I want to give money to died. I need to give it to his yorshim. His yorshim are now the bailim of the money. What is the machloket here between these two braisos? So the Gemara says, Leima beha kamipalge. So the Gemara offers that maybe there is a machloket here whether or not when somebody is being memane a shaliach to be molich money, when he said holech, what did he mean? Two different understandings of the word holech of this statement. One is holech kezachi. What does that mean? I can give somebody something if it's in the favor of someone else. The shaliach can be zoche for that someone else. He's taking the money, but in the act of taking the money, it's as if the person who I wanted to receive the money is taking the money right now. The shaliach is being zoche for the person. If that's the case, then at the act of taking the money from me, already this person, wherever he is already zoche, and that's why you have to give it to his yorshim. But if I think holech lav keschi, that there's a different kind of function, just holech, that you're my shaliach, you're not zachin for the other person, you're doing a deed for me. Therefore, you're the continuation of my hand, and this money still belongs to me, and it's still under my custody, even though it's in your hands. And when I said holech, I never meant that you would be the one who's receiving the money for the person who I want the money to get to. So that's what the Gemara offers. And at first, if you'll see, the Amoraim don't like this and offer 4 different okimtos how to explain this animality between the two braisos. But in the continuation of the Gemara says maybe this machloket, whether or not holech kezachi, you can find it in another braita, which really has names, and it's a much bigger machloket. So let's look how the Gemara continues. Leima holech kezachi tanaihi. Maybe this question, whether or not the word holech talks about zachin, or is it talking about doing a deed for the meshalech, maybe that's the machloket of the Tanaim. Which Tanaim? The Tanya. הולך מנה לפלוני, והלך וביקשו ולא מצאו, יחזרו למשלח. מת משלח. רבי נתן ורבי יעקב אמרו, יחזרו ליורשי משלח. ויש אומרים, ליורשי מי שנשתלחו לו. רבי יהודה הנשיא אמר משום רבי יעקב, שאמר משום רבי מאיר, מצווה לקיים דברי המת. וחכמים אומרים יחלוקו, וכאן אמרו, כל מה שירצה שליח יעשה. אמר רבי שמעון, הנשיא על ידי היה מעשה, ואמרו, יחזרו ליורשי המשלח. So here we see we have many Tanaim saying many things. Let's just go over it briefly. Okay, Tanakama talks about a situation that I sent money and the shaliach is looking for the person, not finding it. Say, Tanakama, bring the money back to Yael. יוחזרו למשלח. Then, a new question. Meta משלח. What happens if I passed away? Okay. Not only did the shaliach not find the person who I was sending the money to, the shaliach doesn't have a home to return to. And here we have a machloket. Rav Natan, Rabbi Yaakov amru, yachzeru liyorshei meshaleach. Okay, fine. If not Yael, give it to Yael's yorshim. That's fine. The yeshomrim, there are cholkim. No. In that case, you have to give it to the yorshim of the person who died, the person who I wanted to give the money to. Rav Yehuda Nasi says, mitzvah lekayem divrei amet. What's this? We'll see soon. חכמים אומרים יחלוקו, וכאן אמרו כל מה שירצה שליח יעשה. So יחלוקו we understand, חכמים obviously think that there's ממון המוטל בספק here, they don't know what to do, so they're splitting it up. What's כאן אמרו? Unclear. What is כל מה שיעשה שליח יעשה? What, anything that the shaliach wants he'll do? Very strange. And Rabbi Shimon HaNasi repeats יחזרו ליורשי המשלח, but he says that it was a maise, that he actually was there and in such a case came forth, and that was the psak. So the Gemara looks at this braita and says, Mai, lav behaka mipalgei, תתנא סבר הולך לאו כזכי. ורבי נתן ורבי יעקב נמי הולך לאו כזכי, ואף על גב דמית, לא אמרינן מצווה לקיים דברי אמת. ויש אומרים הולך כזכי, רבי יהודה הנשיא אמר משום רבי יעקב, שאמר משום רבי מאיר, הולך לאו כזכי, מי הוא אחא דמית אמרינן מצווה לקיים דברי אמת, וחכמים אומרים יחלוקו, מספק כלן, וכאן אמרו שודה עדיף, ורבי שמעון הנשיא מעשה עתה להשמועינן. Okay, so what did the Gemara say here? Let's use Rashi, and also I set it up, I Schottenstein has this very nice tavla, which I put here because I thought it was very helpful to look at the sugya. And let's use this and use this table, and also look at Rashi to understand the last sentence of what the Gemara explains. Okay, so if you look at the table, you'll see that there are two different situations that are being discussed in this braita. One, if the person who I sent to died, but I am still alive. That's one. A different scenario is that both the person who I sent to died and I am also dead. Why would that make a difference? Let's see. According to Tanakama, Tanakama is discussing only the first scenario. I exist, and the person who I want to send money to is not there. He's dead. Then Tanakama says, יחזרו למשלח כי הולך לאו כזכי. Okay, that's clear. I sent a messenger. This messenger is my man. He's not the man of the person who died. And therefore, in case I cannot do his deed, he returns back to me. Tanakama doesn't talk about a situation and I'm also not here anymore. Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Yaakov say, you should know that even in the case that the Meshaleach is also dead, it doesn't make a difference. We're staying with the same rule. Holech lav kezachi. Always, the money will return to me or to my yorshi. Yeshomrim says, no. Holech kezachi, and he's cholek on Tanakama and on Rabbi Natan Rabbi Yaakov. And he thinks that when I make a shaliach, the shaliach is not my man, he's the man of the person who I want to give the money to. Okay, up till now, this is all, like the Gemara said, very close to what it said in the beginning of the daf. But here, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi comes in, and he adds a new story. What's the new story? Mitzvah lekayem divrei amet. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi thinks, like Tanakama and like Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Yaakov, that usually the money will come back to me. If I'm alive, the money will come back to me. But if I pass away, then the money will go to the yorshim of the Meshaleach. But why? It is because a dead man's words have to be done. The deed has to be done. It's a mitzvah to do what I asked. And therefore, even though this money belongs to me, it's a mitzvah to do the deed that I wanted to do before I passed away. So, according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he agrees with Tanakh and Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Yaakov, but he thinks that we have to add another issue here, mitzvah l'ken divrei hamet. In this case, Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Yaakov disagree. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is agreeing with Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Yaakov in one sense, but he is cholek on the other sense because he thinks mitzvah l'kayem divrei hamet, and in that scenario, the money will be given after to the yorshim of the person who has sent the money to. Chachamim have a safek in two manners. They don't know about holech kazachei or not, and they also don't know about mitzvah l'kayem divrei hamet. And kan amru, here Rashi explains that kan is Bavel. The Chachamei Eretz Yisrael said, we don't know what to do, so we do Yachloku. Here in Bavel, they say, we don't know what to do, but we will do here Shuda. Shuda. What's Shuda? Rashi explains the following. Shuda, מה שירצה שליח יעשה, לפי מה שראה בדעתו של משלח, אם הייתה עינו יפה במתנה זו ואוהב את המקבל ואת בניו. Okay, so Rashi here has an explanation that he repeats also in Ketubot and in Baba Batra. And Rashi says that when you do Shuda, what you do is that you get into the head of the person who you were working for, and you try to understand what he would have done if he were alive. This is a very interesting notion that when you have to make your own decision, you don't do your own decision. You always try to understand what other people thought. Let's see what Rashi says in Ketubot, because there it's a little enlarged, and also the Gemara there adds a different perspective. Okay, so in Masechet Ketubot Daf Pei Amud Bet, this is the situation that's been described. Somebody said, I'm giving all of my nechasim to Tuvia. Okay, all I have goes to Tuvia. And then he died, passed away. Ata Tuvia. A Tuvia came. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, hare ba Tuvia. Amar Tuvia, ve'ata Rav Tuvia. LeTuvia amar, לרב טוביה לא אמר. ואיניש דגיסבי, הגיסבי. עטו שני טוביה, שכן ותלמיד חכם, תלמיד חכם קודם, קרוב ותלמיד חכם, תלמיד חכם קודם, איבאי אליהו שכן וקרוב מאי, תשמע טוב שכן קרוב מאח רחוק, שניהם קרובים ושניהם שכנים ושניהם חכמים, שודה דדיין. Okay, so what's the situation? A man said that he's giving all of his nechasim to Tuvia, and then two Tuvia appear. And the Gemara here says that if you have two Tuvia, first you check if one of them is closer to him, his family, and the other is not, if one is Talmid Chacham or not, if one is a neighbor and one is a Karov, and what happens if they're both exactly the same. Okay, so about what happens in each situation, the Rambam will sum it up to us in a moment. But what's interesting that if you have two Tuvyot who are exactly the same, both of them are relatives, both of them are Shchenim, both of them are Chaverim, both of them are Talmidei Chachamim, then you do Shuda Dedaine. And here Rashi explains, Shuda Dedaine, הטלת הדיינים, לפי מה שיראו דיינים שהיה דרכו של מת לקרב את זה יותר מזה, או מי שבשניהם טוב ונוהג בדרך ישרה שיש לומר, בוא נתכוון המת לזכות. שודה כמו שדה בימה, דמתרגמינן ירה בים, מטיל בים. Okay, so says Rashi, what is Shuda? Shuda is throwing something. Okay, what is it throwing? You have here a Dayan that he doesn't have evidence. He can't work according to evidence. He can't work according to rules. So what does he do? He imagines. He's using his imagination, his intuition, to think, what would the dead man say? He's sort of bringing the dead man to life, going down to his dot, and doing a deed in the name of the dead man. That's how Rashi explains Shuda. And the Rambam in Chotz Chiyam Matana also says a similar thing. באו שניים לתבוע, כל אחד מהם מוחזק שמו טוביה, אם היה אחד מהם תלמיד חכם קודם. אין בין תלמיד חכם והיה אחד מהם שכן או קרוב, הוא קודם. היה אחד שכן, אחד קרוב, שכן קודם. שניהם קרובים או שניהם שכנים או שניהם תלמידי חכמים, יעשו הדיינים כמו שיראה להם, כל מי שדעתם נוטה שעל זה אמר נותנים לו, וכן אם היו רבים. So the Rambam also sounds like Rashi that what the Dayanim have to do is that they have to assess or imagine or have intuition, or at least give a reason why they're choosing one more than the other, because they think that if the dead man would have been alive, he would have said that this is the right person to give the money to. That's the shita of Rashi in Ketubot, and also in our sugya, and we see that the Rambam sounds like a chaver to Rashi in the shita. But here in our sugya, we see the shita of Rabbeinu Tam, which is cholek on Rashi, and he thinks that our sugya is a proof against Rashi. So let's look at the Tosfot here. Tosfot דיבור המתחיל וכאן אמרו שודה עדיף. מכאן מדקדק רבנו תם, דאין לפרש שודה כמו שפירש הקונטרסט בפרק הכותב. קבל שניהם קרובים, שניהם שכנים, שניהם תלמידי חכמים. שודה דדייני, דהיינו, שידקדק הדיין את מי שהיה אוהב יותר ולמי היה בדעתו ליתן. וכאן נמי פירש בקונטרסט כמו הטה. אלא, ייתן הדיין למי שירצה, כי ככה, כי אמר מה שירצה שליח יעשה, וקר אלי שוד. Says Rabbeinu Tam, Rashi says that when you do Shuda, you have to think what the dead man would have thought. But here, it should be nedaktek in the lashon of the sugya did not say that the shaliach should do what the dead man wanted. It says what the shaliach should do what the shaliach wants. אלא ייתן הדיין למי שירצה. The shita of Rabbeinu Tam is that Shuda, the dayan decides. The shaliach decides. Not thinking at all about the Meshaleach, only thinking about themselves, what they think. Here, let's look at Tosfot in Baba Basra, Daf Lamed Hey, and there he repeats this idea. Shuda d'dayan nireh leRabbeinu Tam lemי שירצה הדיין ליתן. The dayan decides what he thinks. ולא כפרשת קונטרסט שיעמדו דעתו של נותן. דהה בסוף פרק כמה דגיטין, גבי הולך מנה לפלוני, כי אמר מה שירצה שליח יעשה. וקרא להתם שודה. And again, Rabbeinu Tam says, our sugya is the proof, because here we have a shaliach. And the sugya says, מה שירצה השליח, not מה שירצה המשלח. And continues the Tosfot and says, ואם תאמר, אם כן ייתן למי שייתן לו שכר. The Tosfot says, I understand that when I say that the dayan has to decide, it sounds pretty bad. It sounds as if the dayan will decide according to whoever gives him money. Shochad. Says Rabbeinu Tam, no. יש לומר, דכל דיינה דמקבל אגרא עליו דיין ההוא. Rabbeinu Tam says, if the dayan will decide because somebody is giving him goods, he's not a dayan. No, the dayan will have to decide, but without that, it's not shochad. Okay. So that's the shita of Rabbeinu Tam and Shuda, and very important to say, it's not Rabbeinu Tam alone. There are other Rishonim who joins Rabbeinu Tam. And what we saw is that Rabbeinu Tam has proof from the sugya. And Rashi has a kushia from the sugya. That's what it sounds like. That is true. That the sugya sounds more like Tosfot. I can't say that it sounds 100% like Tosfot. You know, maybe you should say Mashirtze Hashaliach Mashirtze, and he will think what would be the right thing to do about the Mishaleach. It is true that the Lashon is more for Rabbeinu Tam. But definitely the Svara is less like Rabbeinu Tam, because what is the Svara? According to Rashi, the Svara is very clear. We want to do what the dead man wanted. So we want to think what he really wanted to do. That's what we're doing. We're just using our intuition. What kind of Svara it is to give this middleman, the one to decide on his own, with no relation to the story, who's the one to get the money? That is very, very strange. And it's hard to understand the Svara of Rabbeinu Tam. So, an option to explain Rabbeinu Tam can be found in Shuda Rosh. The Shuda Rosh also agrees with Rabbeinu Tam that he thinks that Shuda is what the dayan thinks. And he also gives a Svara. Let's see. Shuda Rosh, כלל כ"ז, ק"ז סימן ו', לכן יש דינים בגמרא, דאמרינן שודא דדייני, בפרק הכותב, ההוא דאמר נכסי לטוביה, אתו תראי טוביה, וכן יש שם בכתובות שני שטרות היוצאים ביום אחד, אמר שמואל שודא דדייני, הוא פירש רש"י שיעשה הדיין לפי עומד דעתו. ורבנו תם ורח ייפו כוח הדיין לעשות בדין וכל מה שירצה לעשות בלי טעם עומד הדעת. Okay, so first the Rosh sums up the deot. According to Rashi, you have to give an omdan. You have to give a tam, an explanation of why you decided to give the X and not Y. But according to Rabbeinu Tam and Rach, You don't have to give any time. You just give X. You don't give Y. No explanation needed. והכי נמי איתה בירושלמי, says the Rosh. לאיזה שירצו בית דין. מחליטין לו בלבד שיהיה בדין מומחה. And here he gives the explanation. והיינו תאמה. וכיוון שבא הדין לפני הדיין, והוא אינו יכול לברר הדבר, אינו רשאי למשוך ידו מן הדין, והריבו בעלי הדינים זה עם זה. וכתיב אמת משפט ושלום וכולי. כי על ידי המשפט יש שלום בעולם, ולכן נתנו כוח לדיין לשפוט ולעשות מה שירצה, אף בלא טעם וראיה, כדי לתת שלום בעולם. So says the Rosh, why would I say that the Dayan can make a decision without explanation? Says the Rosh, because here we're moving from the world of Emet to the world of Shalom. The world of Emet, that's where Rashi belongs. Why is that Emet? Because we don't know what the Mishalech said, so we're trying to understand what the Mishalech said. We're trying to reach the Emet. But according to Rabbeinu Tam and Rabbeinu Hananel and the Rosh, sometimes you have to acknowledge that you can't reach the Emet, but still then you have to make a decision, and a dafka has to be a decision with no explanation. Why? Because you want to make a decision that nobody can say you were wrong. And if you won't make a clear-cut decision without giving a tam, this story can just continue and create a whole big balagan in the world, and we want shalom. So that's why we dafka make a decision with no reason. And the reason to do a decision with no reason is because we want to do shalom, and you don't want to pretend to be doing emet. Because if we want to say that we're doing emet, it's such a problematic emet that people will say, oh no, that's not a good emet, and it will just leave us in a horrible situation. So that's why Shuda has to be with no tam. So that's the svara for Rabbanit Tam. And what's interesting here is that the Rosh talks about the Dayan, and here Rabbanit Tam is talking about a shaliach. Shaliach is not a Dayan, but still we can use the same svara that dafka you're not giving any reasoning, because if you'll give reasoning, that will only create a harder situation in the world, and we prefer shalom than to have a balagan if we can't really get to the emet. So let's go over what we saw. Our sugya is talking about the Shuda of a shaliach, not a dayan. And according to Rabbeinu Tam, this is proof for his daya. What is his daya? There's a machloket rishonim. Rashi on one hand and Rabbeinu Tam on the other hand. Rashi and Rambam and other rishonim. Rabbeinu Tam and Rabbeinu Hananel and Rosh and other rishonim. What is Shuda? According to Rashi and Rambam, Shuda is we can't know what emet is, so we go as far as we can. So we use our imagination, we use our intuition to reach the emet of what did the person really want to happen. According to Rabbeinu Tam, no, you do something dafka with no relation to the person who was in the story, but you, the dayan or the shaliach, decides on their own accord. The svara of Rabbeinu Tam is very hard. The sugya works well with Rabbeinu Tam. The svara is very hard. And we offered an explanation for Rabbeinu Tam through Shut HaRosh, that he said, because we're not looking for emet at all, we're looking for shalom, we dafka want something that will be super clear and with no tam, and that's why we're giving this shaliach or beit din to make the decision on their own accord. Of course, said Rabbeinu Tam, as long as no money is involved, then it's a problem. But you have to make a clear-cut decision because you move to the world of shalom. In the sum up, I'll just mention that the Shulchan Aruch seems to be pasking like Rashi. You can look at Choshen Mishpat Reshmem, Sif Gimel. But there's a whole large discussion there in the Kelim, because this is a very hot topic, this machloket between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. And as we see, our sugya is a proof, so it seems, to Rabbeinu Tam and against Rashi. So I hope you enjoyed this Gefet today, which was really a classic situation of taking a sugya and learning what the Rishonim did with the sugya. And what we did was really learning things that we'll return to when we'll go to Babylonia and Baba Basra, Mona Mutar B'Safek. But we're very lucky to meet the sugya here in Gittin. And I'll just mention that we read the first part of the sugya that offers to understand the brisa in such a way. In the second part of the sugya, there's a different explanation of the brisa. But the work that we did in the first part of the sugya will also help you in the second part to understand the other offer of explanation that Chachamim give to this very long and rich brisa. So I hope you're enjoying your learning in Gittin, and we'll meet again next week. Be'ezrat Hashem. Take care.